Today I wanted to share a thought, something that I've experienced in my life and something many of our young adults in our group have experienced as well. And I'm hoping that we all can learn from the Word of God today. So there's 4 words that I want you guys to memorize today. And if anything you remember from what I say, it's just 4 words and I would have done my job. Okay? So we're going to say those 4 words together. When I, say it after me, then God. One more time. When I, then God. So I want to talk about today our relationship with God and us as young adults, how we perceive that relationship. We often look at it as when and if God, then I will do something. When God gives me something, then I will return the favor. When God blesses me, then I will have more time to come to church. Sometimes our knowledge of God is just a series of what you can do and what you cannot do. The Bible feels like a rule book, and we often forget that it's a relationship. There's a concept, it's called the confirmation bias in psychology, which is basically when you receive new information, you have a pre-existing belief, and the new information that you receive, you use it as a way to confirm what you already think. So when we think that God doesn't love us, and then He takes a little bit longer to answer our prayer, or He has a delay in the prayer, or He has a different answer, we take that as confirmation that He doesn't love us. And if we always look at life through the lens of, if God is not doing something for me, then I can't and I won't do whatever that is. We will miss out on so many blessings in our life. And today I'm here to challenge 4 statements that we all go through. I know I have gone through, and many of you have, many of my close friends have seen the challenges that I've gone through in my spiritual walk. And I know that there's many in our young adults group as well that struggle with these things. So I'm here to talk about 4 when-then statements. But before I present those statements to you, I just want to clarify that these statements are not a magic formula for you to receive blessings. It is not you deposit prayers and you withdraw a miracle. God is not a vending machine. It is a relationship. We have to do our part just like you would have to do your part in any relationship. So, first statement. We think, when God provides, then I will follow Him. This is one of the most common problems that a modern Christian faces. We all want something: financial freedom, a higher status, jobs, cars. And when God doesn't provide that, we don't have any motivation to follow Him. Sometimes I struggle to see the light at the end of the tunnel when you're in a season of pain, when you're in a season of struggling. And I was reading the story of Abraham and Isaac. Everybody knows that story. Everybody knows God had asked Isaac to come and sacrifice his son. We all know that Abraham obeyed, and it has a wonderful ending. We take so many lessons from it. But here's the thing. We look at it, it's easy for us to digest that story because we know how it ends. We know that God saved Isaac. But it's hard to believe that for ourselves when we're in the middle of a painful season because we don't know how it ends. If we look at Genesis chapter 22, verse 8, there's a conversation that Isaac and Abraham are having, and Isaac is asking him, what are we going to use as a sacrifice? And Abraham answered, God Himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering. Now, the funny thing in this response is that Abraham doesn't know God will do this. He's speaking out of faith. He's speaking because he knows the character of God. He's speaking with trust that God will actually do this. So I want to challenge you today to change the statement from when God provides, then I will follow, to when I follow God, then He can provide. Amen. When we go to a food shelter, they have loads of food, but they cannot provide it to the homeless people until you enter this facility and you follow the instructions that they have for you. The same way, God cannot give you the blessings if you do not provide the opportunity for Him to show up. There was a great example I was reading about this, where it's the image of a father and his child. And the child is afraid to jump, and the father says, don't worry, I'll catch you. And the child says, no, but I'm afraid. And the father says, don't worry, I will catch you. But the father can't prove that he will catch the child until the child actually takes the jump. And in the same manner, we have to first follow God, and then he has opportunities to show up in our life and provide. The next when then statement. When God directs me, then I will walk. Many of you are experienced parents here, and I think everybody has seen the stages of a baby walking. I was reflecting on when Joseph was learning how to walk, and he would often crawl and try to stand up, and then he would fall. And everybody's focus was just on getting him to stand up. And we all kept thinking, how can we make his legs just understand the mobility process of standing up? Nobody was telling Joseph, hey, walk to that kitchen, walk to that living room. Likewise, in our Christian faith, how can God direct us if we are not walking? You would not tell a baby to walk to another room when they don't even have the ability to walk. Similarly, how can we expect God to show us the pathway when we are not even moving at all? We see this illustration in Exodus chapter 14 when Moses parts the Red Sea. We see that Jesus had led the Israelites out of Egypt, and he's bringing them down this path, and they come to the sea, and you hear them complaining. And then Moses asks God what to do. Notice God didn't part the sea before they got there. The way was made when they got there. And in Exodus chapter 14, verse 16, the Lord says to Moses, "But lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on through the dry ground." So I want to change our statements from when God directs me, then I will walk. And I would encourage you to change the perspective and look at it as when I walk, then God can direct me. The next when and then statement. When God establishes my kingdom, then I will invest into his kingdom. And this one was a tricky one because we all have a kingdom. If you think about it, we all have our jobs, the social status, the possessions that we have, the circle of people that we hang around, the skills that we choose to develop. It can be a literal kingdom or it can be a figurative kingdom, but we all have one. And so oftentimes we invest a lot of our time into building our own kingdom, which is great. You should work hard to build what you have. But we forget and neglect the person who gave us the supplies to build that kingdom. Sometimes we hold back from giving back to God because we think, if we have more, then I can give to God. But I want to talk to our junior youth for a moment here and students, and I want you to reflect on something. If you are a student and you have problems with time management as a student who is a full-time student, no job, but you daydream about being a millionaire, being successful, having fancy cars, having businesses, but you can't self-regulate, how will you manage a full-time job, a family, a home, and a career? For those of us who are questioning God about a promotion, I know 2 years ago I was stuck in a dead-end job, and everybody that knows me personally knows that I was so depressed in that position. And I kept wondering, Dad and I had a very interesting conversation because he used to tell me that if you put in more work here, then God will enable you. And I used to argue back saying that no, I will work when I have the job that I actually like. And my logic is when I get where I need to go, then I will put in effort. But see, Matthew chapter 6, verse 33 tells us otherwise. It says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." So I want to encourage all of you to shift your perspective from when God establishes my kingdom, then I will invest into his, to when I invest into his kingdom, then he can establish mine. We look at the parable of the talents, where the master has 3 servants, and we all know the story where he gave one 5 talents, one 2 talents, and one talent. And the 2 that had more, they doubled it, and the one that had only 1, he buried it and wasted it. Think about whatever talents God has given you in your life, whether it's through your finances, whether it is an actual talent, singing, playing guitar, any creative thing or any sort of talent that you possess, or whether it's just simply your time. Think, how can God multiply that? How can God multiply your loaf and bread when you don't even present it? So we want to shift our focus to, when I invest into God's kingdom, then He can establish mine. And the last point that I want everyone to take away from this is Christianity is not just about how good we are as Christians, how good we carry ourselves, how faithful we are to God. We are called to help everyone around us. That includes our non-Christian friends, our co-workers, the people we interact with, our neighbors, everyone. But here's the thing that I myself am sometimes stuck in. We think that when God will prepare those people, then I will share my faith. We think that God will magically get our neighbor to see how faithful we are every Sunday we go to church, and maybe our neighbor will approach us one day and ask us, oh, who is this Jesus you worship? Or maybe you're too afraid to talk about it at work because of political reasons, or nowadays everything has, there's a cancel culture. The thing with this problem is think about your favorite restaurant, think about your favorite food, maybe a movie that you've seen, maybe a travel destination that you went to. Anytime we experience something good, anytime we experience something amazing, we instantly tell our family, we instantly tell our friends, we post it on Instagram, we post it on Facebook, we talk about it, we give reviews for things. So why is it that the greatest news that we all have, that we all as Christians have, the good news of Jesus Christ, that's where we come and stop sharing. That's where we pause and hold back. I want to urge you today to change the statement of, when God will prepare them, then I will share my faith, to, when I will share my faith, then God will prepare them. Matthew 28, verse 19 says, therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. This is not a suggestion, it is a commandment. It is something we are told to do, and we show our Christ-like behavior when we live, we try to live like Christ, but understand that sometimes the only interaction or the only glimpse of Christianity that people will have of God is through the life that you lead. So the way we carry ourselves, the things we talk about, how encouraging we are all very important aspects. There's a great story I was reading in Matthew chapter 7 where Jesus is talking to a crowd, and he's talking about different things. He's talking about judging other people, the narrow and wide gates. He's talking about true and false prophets. And one thing that I noticed this time around that I haven't picked up on before was the ending of how he ends that. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 24, he says, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. We all have the daily Bible verse reminders. We have podcasts that we listen to, self-help books, preachers on YouTube, church on Sunday. There's so many different avenues where we hear great things, worship music, and we know what we need to do. We need to improve our walk with God. But what I wanted to focus on is how we do that. There are the small changes in your perspective that you do that. And in this verse, it is emphasized that the person that puts them into practice as well, it's not enough that we just hear it. When you look at the Bible, we look at a few scenarios where when somebody acted on something, then God showed. When Abraham obeyed, then God provided. When Daniel took a stand, God elevated him. When Joseph resisted temptation, God uplifted him. When Esther pleaded, then God delivered the Jews. When Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego opposed the orders that were against God, God turned the fire into a meeting place. The point is this, church. We have to step first, otherwise we cannot see what God is going to do in our life. We have to provide Him the opportunity to come and do the work that He has for us. It's time that we switch from when God, then I, and we switch to when I, then God. Everybody say those 4 words with me. When I, then God. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for watching that video. I hope it was a source of blessing for you. And if you like content like this, hit the subscribe button and please share with your loved ones. God bless you.